Welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Muema. It's the second day of trading, today being Tuesday, 15th of September. We're already halfway through the month. What have you done in as far as your investments are concerned? Have you made money? Have you lost money? I want to know. I will give you the details of how we can be able to engage. Before that, I'll take you through what was happening yesterday on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Behind me, we will be looking at some of the key matrices in terms of the indices, who are the top gainers, who are the top losers, and what was happening to turnover. After that, I'll also give you a glimpse of what is driving markets today. I was just able to see what was trading in terms of demand and supply and who the top gainers were. I will give you that overview. Then, when we finish that session, I want to take you through the Ask Mbithe session, a space where I ask you, reach out to us on our SMS line, which is 20146. If nothing else, say hello to us and ask us anything in as far as investments are concerned. Thank you for the number of you that have been able to send messages to us. I have them and I will be giving you responses and reading this out in a few. When we take a break, we will come back and be joined by Mr. Washington De Geer. Washington is the chairman of BIMA. BIMA is an association of insurance brokers in Kenya. He will be giving us his perspective as far as insurance results are concerned. I will give you a bit more detail on that later on as we go through the show. Let's take a look at what was happening yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. I always say that turnover on Mondays and Fridays tends to be muted as expected. The NSE tends to rally up on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday. On that note, we actually saw the indices weaken a little bit yesterday. The NSE all-share was down 25 basis points to 140.62 points. NSE 20 share, just slight marginal improvement. NSE 25 was also on a downward trend. Let's take a look at what was happening on turnover. That's our equity turnover slide. There you have it. I think we have this running through to the 13th of September. Okay. So it is the 14th of September, actually, I beg your pardon. Turnover was actually down 79% on Monday compared to what was traded on Friday. Muted activity, not too much happening. We saw a lot of Safaricom go through the market in the previous week. This week, muted activity. Today, still muted activity. And I think for this particular week, we actually expect volumes to just sort of trade sideways. Yesterday's volume was about 77 million Kenya shillings worth of turnover. Now, remember, at this point in time when we started the month of September, we actually saw a little bit of a backed up demand, or if you like, pent up demand. The foreign investors tend to take their summer holiday in the month of August. So towards the tail end of August, beginning of September, we saw them come back and go heavy on some of the blue chip companies just to fill in some positions. Heavy activity on Safaricom, we saw heavy activity on equity, heavy activity on KCB, and a bit of activity as well on Scan Group. So this trajectory, we'll just keep looking at it on a day-to-day basis. And I think from here on, it's just important to remember that we might not see this high volume, so we could be getting into a quiet season. So an opportunity for you to look at some stocks if you are looking at it on a long-term basis. Let's see who the top gainers were as at yesterday, the beginning of the week. The Cooperative Bank of Kenya was the top traded stock yesterday, slightly below 1 million shares. 942,600 shares traded. NSE as well, 732,000. Equity Group and KCB, about 400,000 each, 493,000 for equity. KCB, 423. Safaricom, 378. You can sort of see your heavy movers, equity, Safaricom, and KCB. Not too much activity happened there. If these three are not trading, then you expect market volumes to be considerably muted. Yesterday's sentiment has trickled down to today. Our top trade for the day is actually Fahari I-REIT. I will speak about that briefly. We haven't seen too much activity on these three. This three, coupled with a bit of Cooperative Bank, as well as BAT and EABL, tend to be heavy hitters with the foreigners. So not too much happening there, signaling to us that we could probably see a bit of a weak week in terms of the turnover levels. Let's look at who are the top movers in terms of price performance yesterday. Bamburi Cement, we talked about this in detail last week. If you picked it at 20, actually by now you're already up 20%. Just before I came to the set, it was trading at 24.2 shillings. It pays to listen to us or at least ask us some questions. But the point of caution here for Bamburi is the fact that the volumes that have been trading have been more or less thin. Yesterday, at the price of 22, 108,000 shares were traded. Just before I came in here today, the price was 24.2 shillings per share, and the amount of volume that went through this particular stock was 94,800 shares traded for the day. I think it'll probably be a bit higher by the time the markets close. So it's important to know, not only focus on the fact that this share is 10% up yesterday, looks like it will also be up 10% today. You could get into it but get caught out because there's not too much volume going there. For Bamburi Cement, your point of caution is be very sure that you understand the investment case for Bamburi Cement. In other words, you see it as a relevant contributor to cement sales in Kenya over the next 5 to 10 years for you to justify getting into this particular price point of 20. Either that or you are a speculative buyer, and being a speculative buyer at 24.2, I think it will go to 26 shillings, then it comes back down. That has been the trend that we have seen. It goes up to 26, then begins to come back down. Nairobi Business Ventures, second best performer for the day. A bit of the small caps, Express Kenya, Trans-Century and Flame Tree. Let's see who the top losers for the day were. Again, the small caps, eGuards down 10 percentage points to 11.25. Home Africa down 5 percentage points. Last week, it made part of the top gainers list, I think once or twice over the week. Car and General, Kengen, we are seeing a correction there. It's down almost 5 percentage points. This company declared 25 cents in terms of the dividend for the last reported year. So as we're getting closer to the record date, we are seeing a downward correction. Stanlib Fahari, we have talked about this, and we've always just been trying to put question marks out there, asking ourselves, what is happening here? And I hope you can join us on Friday as we do a deep dive on Stanlib. Stanlib has assets, and what Stanlib does, it's called Fahari I-REIT, meaning it's an investment, real estate investment trust. It holds real estate properties, it manages these properties, then when it earns rental income from this, in excess of the expenses, it distributes the surplus to the owners of this particular REIT. The key issue with Fahari REIT has been the fact that it's trading at 5 shillings per share is considered to be so low compared to the assets that it's actually holding. In other words, if you take this price, multiply it by all the shares available to trade in Fahari I-REIT, you get a price that's heavily discounted compared to the value of the real estate that this company has. We keep saying that honestly it's just a matter of time before the market is able to see this and to start to catch on. And interestingly, just before I came in here today, this particular stock has traded over 1 million shares, and it's now at the 5.4 shilling mark. Speculative purposes, there could be a short-term window for you there. Long-term purposes, probably a bit more work needs to be done in understanding what is the real estate that this company is sitting on, and we would like to help you just start off that conversation. Hopefully you can join us on Friday. We can take a deeper dive on the Fahari I-REIT to understand what is happening and what is the value gap, or is it a value trap. I think that's what we have for the market statistics today. That's what's happening there. For your benefit, in terms of the price movements that I've seen before I came on set, Nation Media on a losing streak. Looks like some people made a good sum of money by the end of last week when it touched a high of 19.5, closer to the 20 shilling mark. Now it's already trading below 19 shillings per share. Actually, it's the worst performer for the day. So if you had taken a speculative bid in this particular stock, then it's about time that you actually started cutting back and probably just taking your profits at this point in time. That's the expected trajectory for Nation Media. Other key thing, Bamburi Cement, top performer for the day. Looks like it could get to 26. Beyond 26, it's very hard to see if there'll still be firepower to keep pushing it ahead, especially because of the low volumes that we are seeing. Still, something worth taking a deep dive at and looking to see if its investment case still holds. As always, ask Mbithe. I always want you to ask me absolutely anything to do with investments. Our SMS line is 20146. You also know that you can find me as Mbithe Muema on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on LinkedIn. And if that's not possible for you, Metropole TV is also available on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. On all those platforms, you can reach out to us, ask a question, and we're always available for you each and every single afternoon just to answer. Allow me to just read a couple of questions that have come through. And our guest says, Dear Metropole, who determines exchange rates for currencies? And what are the factors that are used to determine exchange rates? This is Molly from Machakos. Molly, thank you so much for reaching out to us. And that is such a good question. We appreciate you reaching out and telling us where you are talking to us from. Molly, that is such a timely question. Do you want to know why? Well, we have seen a bit of weakness on the currency. Just yesterday, the currency was trading at 108.5. Molly, even beyond that, on Friday, the local dailies published a report saying that the reserves for the central bank are down to 50, they are lower than the previous month by 51 billion shillings. Now, what is happening in the exchange market is this. You have people who normally have demand for currency, which is dollars, to be able to purchase goods or services for use in the Kenyan market. With the onset of COVID-19, the majority of this were uncertain and did not know whether they could be able to purchase, but also, more importantly, most of the countries had actually closed off their borders and there was no movement. Now that the country and the whole world is opening up, you are seeing what we call pent-up demand. These are people who usually have a particular demand for dollars every month, but have not been in the market for the last 6 or so months because of COVID. Now that we're getting to a point of certainty, they're all rushing back to come and demand for the dollars so that they can be able to purchase goods or to pay for services. This has been the primary driver for the weakness in currency. And so to partially answer your question, one of the drivers, demand and supply. Currency, when you're trading in currency, it's like trading in any other good. If the demand is high, the price will move. If the supply is too much, the price will move. The only caveat, Molly, is when you're talking about currency, we talk about it in reverse. Molly, if you buy an orange today and too many people want oranges, the price will go up and we'll say that the price is increasing. When it comes to currency, however, when the price goes down, it actually means that the price is going up. It's actually a reverse market, and I will hope to be able to explain this in one of our Friday shows. So for your benefit, demand and supply is important. Another trigger point is central bank reserves, and these are the reserves that they publish each and every single week in terms of a percentage or number of months of import cover. In other words, how much do we have to be able to pay for our imports and for how many months? And that's a trigger that they normally look out for, as well as the central bank intervention. We have another question asking, Hi Metropole TV, kindly, I would like to know how one can invest in shares and how to buy and sell them. This seems to be a very common question. At least every other 2-3 days I get it. And I will ask you to allow us to probably just come back and have a proper show beginning to the end, walking you through the process of buying, what do I do? But for your benefit, starting point, buying and selling of shares is facilitated by the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The NSC ni kama soko. It's like going to Marikiti, where if I want to buy vegetables, I must show up at Marikiti at least to be able to get variety. So NSC is that way, but it's very coordinated. It's not crazy like Marikiti. You're not going there at 4 a.m. in the morning with your boots. No, it's just a marketplace where people buy and sell shares. You need to get access to this market. Access to this market is provided by the over 20 stockbrokers that are licensed, regulated, and part of the trading community of the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the Capital Markets Authority. First thing you want to do is download the NSE app on your phone. Either you have a smart iPhone or you have an Android. You can be able to download it from the relevant Play stores. When you go to the NSE app, it gives you a list of all the stockbrokers. If you want to learn more, you click on one, it takes you to their website. You can be able to compare who do I like, who's responsive to me, what colors do I like. You can be able to get access to them. And then in terms of trading, this market opens at 9:30, closes at 3, so we are about 13 minutes away from it closing. Once you set up your account, you have to be cognizant of the timings, 9:30 all the way to 3, because outside of that window, you can't be able to buy or sell or trade anything on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Thank you for your questions, your comments. Keep them coming. 20146 is our line. Let me also know your name and where you're asking your question from, or Metropole TV or Mbithe Muema on social media platforms. We take a break. When we come back, we want to speak to Mr. Washington De Gea. Washington is the chairman of Bima Intermediaries, which is an association of insurance brokers in Kenya. Washington sits in such an interesting space. Today, we have seen COVID have an impact on insurance premium. We've also had the impact of COVID being adverse when we are looking at some of the results. Sanlam numbers are down. Jubilee was the only one whose numbers were up and they paid a dividend. Britam numbers are down. CIC numbers are down. What is happening here? What is causing the numbers to be down? Is this going to be a permanent situation? And for you as an investor, should you actually look at the prices as they have come down, and is there a long-term buying opportunity? We take a break. When we'll come back, Mr. De Gea will join us virtually via Zoom, and I'll be able to engage with him one-on-one, and I'd be more than happy to be able to ask him some questions on your behalf. 20146, that's the number. Mbithe Muema on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or Metropole TV. That's our handle, and we'll be happy to ask the questions on your behalf. Don't go anywhere. I hope to see you and engage with you after the break.